in terms of Chelsea, I think, it's so positive at the moment, and I'm a bit like you. I'm trying to remain as grounded as possible with Chelsea.
Yeah.
I think because I don't want to go overboard. I don't want to. Maybe it's a sense of looking at Chelsea in previous years around this time of the year where it all seems to go downhill pretty quickly, even though we seem to be on the good run. It's 6 games in a row we've won. It's hard not to be positive. Do you think it's a very simple question, but do you think Lampard has fixed our problems that we saw last year and also at the beginning of this season?
I think again, I'm going to remain very grounded, as seen over the past 9 games, especially with Mendy coming in. Yes, but 9 games doesn't win a season. We need to sort of analyze it as and when. Do you know? I wouldn't even analyze it at the end of this year. I don't think we can fix our defensive problems as evidence. I think the goal we conceded against Rennes, yes, it was a set piece and it was a bullet header. Don't get me wrong, but in terms of picking up players and picking up players at set pieces, it's been a problem for the past couple of years. So I think that we've gone away to fixing our problems, but we also have to realise that Thiago Silva isn't getting any younger. And yes, he's been superb. And yes, he is. He's a bastion of football for me. When people talk about great centre backs, I put Thiago Silva up there. Growing up, he was someone I always wanted at Chelsea. And I think that once that's fixed, we kind of need to. We've got probably 2 years left, maybe at a push with Thiago Silva. So you then need to find someone who's going to step into the breach there defensively. Right now, I don't think there's anyone that can quite do that. I think Fikayo Tomori and Kurt Zouma look like a potential partnership for years to come at the beginning of last season. But now, I don't know what's happened. Clearly, something's happened behind the scenes with Fikayo Tomori and Frank Lampard. And it's a case of we're probably going to have to purchase someone to go into that position to kind of build around. But I look now and I don't see anyone who is, a step up to Thiago Silva or on a level who's younger. People see in the summer when people talk about get Khalid Koulibaly, get Thiago Silva. Thiago Silva was a very shrewd purchase. A free transfer, basically paying 3 million in fees for 2 years. It's a no-brainer. 3 million is nothing. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Cool, but it's worked, and we've seen a player which has drastically changed our backline. I think it's gone away. Like I said, it's gone away to repairing it, but I think that's a conversation to be had at the end of the season and potentially in January next season. Sort of go, okay, it's now been 18 months. Have we fixed this problem, or do we need to go into the market and try and reanalyze and pick someone else up? Um, but I think we are looking more resilient. Just if you're going pure statistics, we're looking more resilient. We've got a keeper which the players clearly trust, because I don't think they did trust Kepa by the back end of last season, and I think that was evidenced. I mean, even from a personality perspective, you look at the interview after the Rennes game with Mendy and Mason Mount, and you look at when they're on the plane back. I just want someone to hold me like Mendy holds Mason. You know what I mean? That's I need that in my life, and he's definitely someone who has had an impact on the squad, even with the language barrier. So, and it's the same with Thiago Silva. So I think, analyse that at the end of the season. But I think it's an answer of so far so good, really.
You look at these run of games, and I don't just want to dismiss them, because I think that a lot of people will look at the next run of games, because we've got Spurs, we've got Leeds coming up, we've got Everton away, Arsenal, Man City. We've got some tough games coming up, and I think that will more tell us how serious our title challenge is. But I think we should look at the positives of breaking down low defenses, deep
Yeah.
defenses that we couldn't last season. I think I've seen improvement within that. I think
Mm.
in terms of managing games, and as well, I said this in my review last night, I think Chelsea are a lot better this season of not playing well but getting the job done, which we couldn't do last season. Chelsea had to play well last season. There were very few times we put in a 7 out of 10 performance, or probably even lower than that, and we'd still get out with a win. We had almost everything had to be perfect
Yeah.
for us to win games. In terms of that sort of breaking down low blocks. Have you seen that? Because to me, in the Burnley game, in a Sheffield United game, and a Newcastle game, especially at difficult ground historically for Chelsea, this team seems to be able to find and create chances at a pretty consistent rate.
I think that the Burnley game, without sounding smug, I think when we go to Burnley, we always perform. So I was happy with that. I thought that was kind of 3 points job done. I learned a little bit from it, but not as much as I'd like to. Newcastle and Sheffield United, those were the two games which we didn't perform in last year, and I was worried about. Sheffield United, as much as they are down in the relegation zone, let's be brutally honest here, they're not a bad side, one. And two, when Pep Guardiola's Man City turns up to them, which is known for its free-flowing football, obviously not as much this year, something seems to be happening there, but is known for its free-flowing football and breaking sides down, and they only just about get a 1-0 win, and yeah, exactly. And we go there and they come to us. When McGoldrick scored, I was sat there going, "Oh bloody hell, here we go! Like this is going to be it all over again." And Hakim Ziyech just, again, a very shrewd purchase for 32 million, I believe it was, off the top of my head. Can't even remember now. So long ago. He's come in and made a big difference. And I think breaking down those defenses has kind of come down to him. Again, 2 or 3 games. I'm not going to sit here and wax lyrical like he's the best thing since sliced bread. Right now he is. Right now I'm absolutely loving him. But like you said, when we're playing Tottenham, Man City, Liverpool, it's these players which have got to perform. That would really show how far we've come. But breaking down defenses and winning games, maybe not as convincingly, is always a bonus. Newcastle game, I think we did okay. We ground it out, but there were still moments. Obviously, Thiago Silva wasn't playing in that game, but there were still moments. Isaac Hayden in the second half, Andy Carroll in the second half, where it just took them to not make a mistake and the game would have changed on its head. And Newcastle this season, worst in terms of all attacking attributes in the league. So we were very fortunate. But, obviously it's going to be a case of we've got to make sure this team is gelling, which it seems it is, and performing. Because look, that Liverpool game, as much as it annoyed me, because I hate losing to Liverpool. I think they're as a club, and some of the fans, not all of them, obviously having Scouse family who are Liverpool fans and Everton fans, they're lovely. I can have a conversation about football with them, and there's not going to be bringing up history and we've done this and we're the best at this and we're the best at that. Oh my God, some of the stuff that some Liverpool fans come out with, it makes me want to bang my head against a brick wall. I'm there, and I hate losing to them. But taking off my Chelsea hat and putting on my football hat, you look at that game, the team hadn't gelled. I think if we played Liverpool now, it might be a different game. But then again, you say that and you look at what they did to Leicester at the weekend. So it's it's a tough one because we don't know what's going to happen. But breaking down defences, I think Timo Werner's been very key in that. He runs like Kanye West at Glastonbury, just breaks down a defence and that's it. Somehow, I wish I could keep up with him. But I think it's nice to see him and Tammy Abraham linking up very well as well. But I think we when it comes to those big games, that for me is when I want to properly sit down and analyse, because there will be teams in those big games that know when it comes to playing against Timo Werner, you'd be stupid to play a high line. So they'll be sitting in deep as well. So again, no discredit to Sheffield United and Newcastle, but they're not Man City, they're not Liverpool, they're not Bayern Munich. They're not top tier teams which have amazing world class internationals at the heart of their defences and are playing well. So that's really going to be when the big tests happen in terms of low blocks for me, and really sees how we deal with the opposition. To be honest,
I think Lampard's remained pretty, grounded, which is what you expect from a coach. But I think he really has tried to, after every win recently, really state that we still got progress to make. There's still going to be difficult days ahead. And I think, it's having that sort of nuanced, balanced view. I think we all want to see progress in this team this year. And progress doesn't necessarily even mean a piece of silverware. Progress could mean as we see, and I know we'll get into. I think we all look at the FA Cup, right, and we want to sort of avenge the defeat of Arsenal, right? But I think
Yeah,
that if we come really close to winning the Premier League title, if we progress more in the Champions League, in terms of points in the Premier League, we're a lot more of a consistent team. You could see our trajectory going upwards, and we're not
yeah,
that far away. If you get the FA Cup is all about that draw, right? We could get a really tough draw early on and get knocked out, and
yeah,
we could face Man City and they put out first full strength. We play them and we put out full strength, and they beat us just narrowly. What is everyone gonna throw their toys out the pram? But we're making progress in other areas. Look at, I think Liverpool. We all talk about Liverpool as sort of inspiration, and Lampard talks about his inspiration. They spent a few seasons under Klopp not winning silverware, and there was you could clearly see signs of progress. I think there needs to be I think we need to look at last season and the season before that, and for me, it's about breaking down teams we're supposed to be, being more consistent against them, getting better results in identical fixtures this year in terms of looking more stable at the back, game management. I think personally for me, there's more than just about do we have another trophy at the end of the season.
yeah. I agree to a certain extent. I think the point you made about the FA Cup is very important because it might be we might get a really tough draw early on. But my one worry with that is obviously we've got players that have won stuff at youth level within the squad. You've got Thiago Silva, who's a seasoned international, has won nearly everything he possibly could. In multiple countries as well, not just France, which I understand when people like it's a farmers league. He did it in Italy when it was far more competitive. I worry that if we don't pick up something within the next couple of years, and I mean this year or next year, we could potentially fall into a more expensive version of, excuse me, French, Tottenham Hotspur in the early 2010s. In the middle of the 2010s when obviously there was that they finished third in a two-horse race with Leicester. Then they were that. Oh, it's a really good team, really good team. Oh, they'll win something soon. I am very worried we could fall into that bracket. So for me, I'm kind of sitting there going, like, look, for me, Premier League, I don't think we'll win it this year. There are one or two teams better than us. They might not be as consistent right now, but again, Liverpool somehow fielded someone who wasn't the tea lady at centre back, and they got the job done. So, that is something which is a bit of a worry for me. Where, as much as there's a better team than us this year, if we do get to the FA Cup final again, please, hopefully, then that's kind of when I'm sitting there going, right. As much as we weren't even the better team on the day, if I'm honest, but as we also did have a god awful referee. Thank God isn't reffing this weekend. He's been pulled from it. I want us to deliver. That's because I don't want to fall into that bracket. I physically can't bring myself to do it. And I know Chelsea as a club is very different to Tottenham because we do have that history of winning trophies now. As much as people might say, oh, you've only been doing it since 2003. We were doing it beforehand as well. Might not be as consistently, but we still won more trophies in that period than Tottenham Hotspur did for a very long time. So I think that there is that winning mentality. There is that there, obviously, with Frank as well, as a player delivering those trophies. But I'm very, very worried. I think that comparing Lampard and Klopp, it's like comparing, fish and chicken. There's two completely different things. Shock horror, I make a food analogy. But I think that Klopp comes into Liverpool having basically a blueprint of how to do that, having already done it with Dortmund, to a certain extent with Mainz. He, at Dortmund, took a team to challenge the dominance of Bayern Munich. You've now got Lampard, who is a young manager. He has clearly did something well when he was at Derby, because look where they are now. Look how they're performing with a similar crop of players. And it's not the same because Frank's not done it yet. And I think that's what worries me. I just don't want us to fall into that Tottenham Hotspur bracket.
Psychology is such a big thing in top level sport, right? And I think that I think you bring up, Tottenham, I think is a great example of this, right? And it was disappointing we got knocked out of the League Cup because I think that was such a great opportunity. And it sounds very stereotypical, but you, as a Chelsea fan, you always naturally look back to that '05 Cup against Liverpool with Mourinho. And that was so big to the team, to Mourinho, to the club to win that because it instilled that winning mentality, which is an overused term, but it's there for a reason. I think that success breeds more success. I think, there's a sense that for players like Mason Mount, for Tammy, for Reece, that we'll get onto, I think for all these players, it's so important that they get over the line on a big occasion. And they haven't done it yet, and that's why when we're speaking about this current winning run, you don't want to go overboard and think we've won the Champions League because we haven't.
No.
There's still a long way to go. But I also think, as I think we both share, if things go wrong on Sunday, not for everyone to throw their toys out the pram and think that it's, doom and gloom and we're never going to win anything again. I think there's that balance to be had.